Yo, I'm Brendan. If you want to quit your job someday on your own terms and not be broke, you need to invest the best way. To do that, we need to choose the best investing account type that marries with our goals. Enter the IRA. IRA just stands for Individual Retirement Account, and it will help you save so much money, your friends will be jealous that you watched this video and they didn't way back in 2024, 2025. But the problem is there's a bunch of different kinds of IRAs. So which is the best one? Traditional, Roth, backdoor Roth conversion, simple IRA, SEP IRA. It's enough terminology to make your head spin. So what we need to figure out today is which account is going to save us the most money on taxes so we keep the maximum amount and we have the best retirement possible. But even doing that is hotly debated. Everyone has their own opinion. So here's the agenda. We're going to start with the basics of the two most popular kinds of IRAs so you get started on the right track, you get your footing, you know what we're talking about. But we shouldn't stop there because we also need to know the drawbacks of each of these because they all have benefits over and above a basic like taxable brokerage investing account, but they also have real downsides that you need to factor in, like locking your money away behind heavy penalties and taxes until you're in your mid-60s. And also, whenever you talk to people or whenever you read some stuff online, why does everyone assume the Roth IRA is the best option? Lately, I've learned about new reasons why the Roth IRA is not the immediate choice for everybody. It's not automatically the one we should all go to, so I'll share those reasons with you too. Hey, if you're new here, I make loads of videos online so that you can become a millionaire on your own as soon as possible, get yourself financially ready to retire or have a financially free life or do whatever you want to do. And we do that by managing our money well, investing well, and using the best products and services. Let's go. This is part one, the basics of what each IRA is and what the benefits of each one are. So IRAs, or individual retirement accounts, are just a type of account that you can invest in. They are not an investment in and of themselves. So if you want to use one, you pick a type that you like, you open the account with an investing company you like, then you send money into the account and you choose what kinds of investments you want the money to go towards. The reason that we even consider using an IRA instead of a normal taxable brokerage account is that the government has set up tax breaks for the money that you send into these IRAs. The more money you invest, the more money you save on taxes. Seems kind of odd. Why would the government care if we did this or not? Well, it's incentivizing us to save money for our own future, which benefits us along the way because we've got more money to have and spend and live with and be secure with. And it critically makes our retirement years better because we're taken care of and we're not leeching off the government to provide for us. So really, it's like a win-win for everybody. But why do we specifically care about these tax breaks that we're getting from these accounts? Like, why should that be attractive to us if it's not immediately attractive to you already? Well, the concept is this: the less money you pay in taxes, the more money you have to keep. So you could spend it, you could get more burritos and race cars in your life, or you could have more money around that's kept, that's yours. So you could invest more, get richer, or get freer sooner. No matter how you slice it, less taxes means you keep more money and you have more options. And using an IRA to invest is an amazing method for us to avoid taxes legally. Yes, legally avoiding taxes. Specifically, then, what we're going to do is compare and contrast the two most popular kinds of IRA accounts, the traditional and the Roth IRA. These are the ones most people use, and for good reason. So let's talk about the traditional IRA first. First off, awkwardly, a traditional IRA isn't in any way like more traditional or less radical than a Roth IRA. So I think the name is silly, but it's what we've got. A traditional IRA is set up to help you save for retirement in the future and save money on taxes now this year. The way it works is this: you can send up to $7,000 per year into this kind of IRA, a traditional IRA, and that amount that you send in is functionally removed from your income in the eyes of the IRS. They just say, check it out, Brendan didn't make that $7,000 this year because it went into his traditional IRA. We're not going to tax him on that money. It's functionally not even his right now. It's gone. And so then, because I have less income to tax, I'll save money this year. Hence the spare money that we generate for burritos and race cars. But what does that really look like in practice with real numbers? Let's say your effective tax rate is something like 20%, and you max out your IRA every year with the full $7,000. You're investing $7,000 into this account. That means that you're saving about $1,400 in taxes that you otherwise would have had to pay. If you just kept the $7,000 instead of putting it in that account, you're on the hook for the $1,400. But because you put it in that one, not a different one, you keep that money. You can do the same thing next year and the year after that, and keep going, keep saving this money on taxes just because you're using a traditional IRA. I think that's pretty amazing. And critically, for a lot of you out there, there are no income limits to a traditional IRA. So if you're a high earner, or if you expect to be a high earner, a traditional IRA could be your best friend. So you're starting to see the attraction to this kind of IRA. And speaking of attraction, everybody's little favorite golden boy, the Roth IRA is next. It's like America's little darling. Why is it? Why does everybody love the Roth IRA so much? I'll sum it up for you in one sentence. Because it sets you up to stop paying taxes entirely. Forever. Yes, you heard that right. After you send money into your Roth IRA account, up to that same max limit per year, $7,000, you never pay taxes on that money again. Isn't that crazy? Here's why. The money we invest into a Roth IRA is called after-tax income, and that means that we paid taxes on it like all of our other income. The IRS doesn't treat you or your money any differently because you invested in a Roth IRA. But after that, the magic happens. The money you sent into the account and invested, it grows over time. And the money you put in the next year grows. And then the money grows on itself, and the growth grows on the growth, and you end up with this big fat rolling snowball of money growth momentum in the account. And all of that money over decades of investing is yours 100% tax-free. It is wild. This is the Roth IRA superpower. And not only is it really awesome because over enough time, the growth that happens in our investing gets much larger than the actual dollars that we put into it ourselves in the beginning. And all of that is tax-free, not just the dollars we put into it. So you're literally generating completely tax-free income for yourself. But it's not just having a big lump of tax-free money that's really attractive with this. Another huge thing that draws people to the Roth IRA is how helpful this is when it comes time to plan your retirement, because with a Roth IRA, unlike other investing accounts, you know exactly how much money you have and that it's not going to get taxed at all. This makes your life very simple. If you need some money to take out, boom, done. No consideration for marginal tax brackets and long-term capital gains and all those shenanigans. And for a lot of people, you can't put a price on peace of mind. Huge perk number 3 of a Roth IRA is that you can access the money that you put in at any time for any reason. Yeah, it seems like your money in this retirement account is locked up in this special situation only made for retirement, but with a Roth IRA, that won't stop you from taking out the money if you need it. Only the growth is locked up, not the original contribution that you made. And the reason we're allowed to do that is because the money that you put into the Roth IRA is after tax. The government has gotten their slice of the pie, so that money is now yours free and clear forever. Maybe you need to grab another $10K to get the down payment on the house of your dreams. Boom, dip into the Roth IRA and make it happen. Maybe you need to buy a Porsche race car that you really want for your midlife crisis? Who needs a retirement account when you can have a flat 6 screaming at 9,000 RPM flying around the corners of a racetrack? It sounds pretty awesome. But you might also have more noble intentions to access that money early, like not just blowing it on burritos and race cars. What about early retirement? What if you're too good at saving and investing and being happy as a human being with a deeper identity over and above consumer so you can actually retire early? Your Roth IRA can make that dream come true. You can't do that with a traditional IRA. The money is locked up. And that reminds me, now it's time to talk about the downsides of these accounts. Money being locked up, rules we don't like. Let's get into the fine print and what we hate about these kinds of accounts now. Part 2. The downsides of each kind of IRA. First off, a Roth IRA, the little darling we just talked about. It has income limits. It makes it really hard to invest in a Roth IRA if you make a high income. Technically, it's still possible to do a little workaround. It's called a backdoor Roth IRA, but that's a bit of a pain. And it also may not be worth doing because that luscious tax savings we all salivate over can actually end up costing us money. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Another downside is that you're choosing to accept the current taxation of your money at your current marginal tax rate based on your income. That means that someday in the future, if there's an amazing tax break for retirees or somehow that income could have been treated more favorably, you don't get to feel the benefits of it because you paid taxes way back in 2025, and that's not a great feeling. You're giving up money. And speaking of giving up money, now I want to talk to you about these ways that I just learned about that a Roth IRA is actually really unappealing. The problem with paying taxes on the money that we send into our Roth IRA right away. You have to do it like that. Whenever you send the money in, you pay taxes on it that year. That system only works well if you're in the lowest tax brackets. If you're in the higher tax brackets, even the middle tax brackets, using a Roth IRA can actually cost you a load of money. And I did the math and I'll show it to you here in 25 seconds. But what we're talking about is missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars just for using a Roth IRA instead of a traditional IRA. It's spreadsheet time. So what we're looking at here are income tax brackets. I focused on the married filing jointly kind of numbers here, but if you're single, you can also do the math for yourself. And what this is showing us is based on each of these kind of income ranges, how much money you'll be paying in taxes. Stick with me here. There's a reason we're going over this. So for this first one, if you're married filing jointly and you make $23,850 or less, that means if you max that out, you owe 10% on that money, which is $2,385. Makes sense? Then the next range of income is between $23,850 per year and $96,950 per year. So that chunk of money that's in between those two ranges is this $73,000. If you make it up past that 10% margin and you're in this next chunk of money, everything in that chunk gets taxed at 12%. 12% of that range is $8,722. Then that keeps going up and up and up based on the income that you make. Obviously, the last tax bracket is essentially endless because it's any income over $501,000. You could be making millions or billions or whatever. But we're typically right around here in the lower middle. The average person is. And the reason that we talked about that is so I can show you the cost of using a Roth IRA. This is the downside of using a Roth IRA because we're paying money in taxes every year to use it. So if you max out a Roth IRA, you're putting in the full $7,000 per year. If your marginal tax bracket is up there in the 10% range, that means the amount you'd have paid in taxes that you didn't have to is $700 for the 10% tax bracket range. The reason I say you didn't have to is you chose a Roth. You didn't have to have a Roth. You could have done a traditional. So you're paying for access to this account. You're paying for the right to then have this money tax-free for forever. So if you kept investing this same $7,000 per year for 30 years, you made 9% on it, then you would have just over $1 million. Sounds pretty nice, right? But if your income is higher and you're at a higher marginal tax bracket, you end up paying more money in taxes on that same $7,000 you've contributed. Because at a 12% marginal tax bracket, you're paying $840 per year in taxes just to be able to use the Roth IRA. At a 22% tax bracket, you're paying $1,540 per year in taxes just to get that money into the Roth IRA. So it's $7,000 into the account you're actually investing, plus $1,540 that you're paying to the IRS just to have had that money, to have earned the money. And then those numbers keep going up and up and up as you make more money and you're in higher tax brackets. You know, somebody who's in the highest tax bracket in that 35% range, 35% of $7,000 is $2,450 that they're paying in taxes every single year. And over the course of 30 years, that amounts to a lot of money. So what if we do a little experiment and we say, okay, that's our future with the Roth IRA. We're paying the taxes up front. We're investing $7,000 per year. What if we don't use a Roth IRA and instead use a traditional IRA, which saves us this amount in taxes every year? This column right here is the amount of money we will be saving in taxes if we use a traditional IRA instead of a Roth. Now, what would happen if we were disciplined people who wanted to save and invest as much money as possible as early as possible, and we took that tax difference that we got for using the traditional IRA and we invested that money? We'd say, screw the Roth. Let me take my tax savings and invest it. Well, even at the 10% marginal tax bracket range, which is the lowest amount of money you can possibly save on this thing, if you invested $700 per month, every single month for 30 years, made about 9% on it, you'd have an extra $104,000. So instead of having just over $1 million, you'd have $1.14 million. That sounds pretty nice. At the next tax bracket up, if you did the same thing and you invested that tax savings that you had gotten at the 12% marginal tax bracket range, which is somebody who's making between $24,000 and $97,000 per year. If you invest your tax savings from having used a traditional IRA, you'll end up with an extra $124,000. And here's where it really starts to amount to something. If you're in that 22% tax bracket range and you're saving $1,500 per year by using a traditional IRA instead of a Roth, you invest that money. After 30 years, you'll have $228,000 more than the person with the Roth. And that keeps getting higher and higher as you get into the higher tax brackets because you've essentially got more money that you could invest. So here's what that looks like visually. This red line is our Roth IRA account. The amount you end up with in the account doesn't really change based on your income level because everyone is capped at the $7,000 per year that you can possibly contribute. But what this green line represents is the somebody who says, forget about the Roth IRA. Let's use a traditional IRA. Let's take that money that I would have paid in taxes that I've now saved myself, and instead of spending it on burritos and race cars, as tempting and delicious as they are, let's turn around and invest that money into something that's reasonable, makes about 9% per year, and do that for our whole retirement. Even people with a lower income end up with an extra $150,000. Somebody who's making as a family between about $100,000 and $200,000 per year, married, filing jointly, so both people are working. You're right there in between $100,000 and $200,000. You're talking about having an extra $250,000, $300,000 in your retirement because you've invested that extra money, that tax savings. And then it can get even crazier if you're at the higher income levels. Hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. But critically, if you looked at my little notes to myself here in my spreadsheet, you probably read this. It says, but Brendan, this is before tax income. Right? If we're using a traditional IRA and a taxable brokerage to invest our $7,000 per year, plus we invest our tax savings on top of that, this is all before tax income. That means whenever we're pulling money out of this, we still have to pay taxes on it. So doesn't that balance it out? Doesn't that potentially mean that the Roth could be worth even more money than this because this still has to get taxed? Well, let's do that math. What if you retire using a traditional IRA? So those bigger numbers, right? What you end up doing here is paying taxes with your effective tax rate, which may very well be a lot lower than your marginal tax rate. Your marginal tax rate now is based on the income that you're making now. Your effective tax rate in the future is based on a bunch of different factors. What it ends up doing is probably lowering your tax burden less than your current tax rate is. So let's say you're going to withdraw $100,000 per year in retirement with the current system set up as it is. $100,000 of income. The first thing we can do is lop off the standard deduction off the top. $30,000, married filing jointly from 2025 and beyond. It'll probably keep going up in the future. That means the remaining taxable income you have to worry about is only 70 grand. Okay. We're off to a good start. Less income to tax means less money out of our pocket. At the 10% tax bracket on the first $23,850, that means we're only paying $2,385 in taxes. So our remaining taxable income is about $67,500. Then that next chunk of money is all in the 12% tax bracket. 12% on that remaining income that we have that's taxable is a little over $8 grand. So that means the total that we paid in taxes to pay ourselves $100,000 in retirement from our traditional IRA, from our taxable brokerage account, is about $10,500, which means our effective tax rate on $100,000 a year of retirement income is only 10.5%. That's like nothing. But wait. You're saying, I'm a Roth IRA lover, and I say I'm going to pay $0 in taxes in retirement, and that's what this chart shows us. If you're retired, the current system, the current setup as it is, you write yourself a check for $100 grand at the beginning of the year, or however you do that. Total paid in taxes right now as a retiree, $0. But the difference is that for you to make the money that goes into the account in the beginning, you had to pay the marginal tax rate. You are probably paying something closer to 18, 20, 25% taxes, depending on your income level, to get that money in the account in the first place. So this 0 number that looks so sexy on the Roth IRA chart really isn't representative of the net total taxes you paid to get the money there. So does that mean that we need to just rule out Roth IRA accounts for most people? Should we just use something like a traditional IRA? Because it seems really appealing right now. We just talked about how low the tax rates are. Well, we haven't talked about the downsides of a traditional IRA yet. It's nothing to ignore. A traditional IRA helps us save money on taxes in the year that we invest it because it's set up to force you to pay taxes on that money when you retire someday in the future. So let's say you're 64 years old right now. You're retired. You're planning your next trip to Europe. Should we do the south of France or maybe northern Italy, hit Lake Como, maybe venture up into the Alps a little bit, stay in some kind of cool monastery in the mountains? What the heck? Let's do it all. A big 4-week-long trip. We're going to touch everything that we want to touch. That sounds weird. We're going to go everywhere we want to go. That kind of trip is going to be expensive. So you got to plan to tap into your traditional IRA income that you've got set up for your retirement. This is what we saved for, right? Let's live a little. Well, those dollars that you pull out of it are all subject to income tax. Yikes. And even more concerning than that, future taxes could be a lot higher than they are today. A lot of people are afraid of this future, and some are even sure this is what's going to happen. Bro, the only thing that's going to happen with taxes is they're going to go up. You got to use a Roth IRA now because taxes are as low as they'll ever be. Now, personally, I'm not sure how they could have such a clear crystal ball, but I think the chance is definitely there. The only constant in life is change, and if changes over the next 20 or 30 or 40 years end up with raised taxes, you'll have to take them like a punch to the face in retirement, at least if you're using a traditional IRA. Also, downside number 2, any money that's in your traditional IRA is locked up behind big iron bars made of taxes and early withdrawal penalties. Why is that? Because you haven't paid taxes on that money yet. It's frozen in time, not to be touched until somewhere in the future when you reach retirement age, which is set by the government, not you, by the way. Then you need to withdraw that money, and then you have to pay taxes on it. At that point, it gets to be a little bit annoying because you say, well, maybe we want to live on $100 grand per year, so we'll pull out $100 grand. Well, then come April, you're going to get a big fat tax bill. So you almost have to plan ahead and say, all right, what tax bracket will we be in? We want to have this much after tax. We got to pay ourselves that much to account for how much the tax is going to be. It's a pain. Speaking of pains, how would you like to not be in control of your money? Welcome to a traditional IRA and what are called required minimum distributions, RMDs. It's like a way to penalize people for doing what's right. Let's say you save and invest in other ways that make enough money for you to live the life you want so that you don't have to touch your traditional IRA. You're thinking, this is great. We don't even need to touch all of our different money because we've got this money coming from over here, so the IRA can just sit there. Maybe it can grow over time. We could leave it to our kids. We could donate it to some cause we like. Nope, can't do that. You know why? Because you didn't pay taxes on that money yet, and the government won't let you perpetuate that forever. So they invented this little devious rule called required minimum distributions, aka give us our tax money, buddy. What RMDs make you do is require that you withdraw at least a minimum amount of money out of your traditional IRA at a certain age so that the government can tax it. This is super annoying because it screws with your money planning, it costs you money in taxes, and it generally seems excessive to control someone's finances when they're in their mid-70s and have done things right. They don't need to tap into this money, and yet they're being forced to. And yes, you heard that right. The RMD age is now 73 years old. Apparently in 2033, it's going to get raised to 75 years old. That's the minimum age that you have to start pulling this money out. And to add insult to injury, the government calculates how much money you have to pull out of the account based on when they expect you to die. There is a chart that says, we think you're going to die this soon, so you owe us that much money. It is hilarious and a little morbid. So this chart shows you the distributions, that means the withdrawals you have to take out of the account that are required as of 2024. And the way you figure it out is you find your age on the chart, then you take the total money in your traditional IRA and divide it by that number corresponding to your age. That's the amount of money you have to pay yourself, you have to take out as income, and you can have it and you can spend it and you can do whatever you want with it, but now it's also going to get taxed like income from a job. So as an example, right now, if you're 80, that number that corresponds with 80 is 20.2. If you had $1 million in your traditional IRA, that means you're required to withdraw $49,505, basically a fifth of your balance. Withdraw that. Now that's taxable income. That 50 G's is income like if you were still working. But you're not. You're 80. And if you're 93, it's a tenth of your total balance. And if you're 120 years old, they require you to withdraw half of the account. Just so we're clear, it's not the actual tax amount you're required to pay. It's not 50 grand per year or a tenth of the balance that you're having to pay directly in taxes. It's income you pay to yourself. Then that gets chunks out of it based on taxes. But this sucks. Who wants to go through that mess when you're 75, 80, 90 years old? It's ridiculous. And if you don't do it, you get penalized. So if a traditional IRA isn't a home run either, then how do we pick which is the best kind of investing account for you? I think it's a matter of 3 simple questions. If you answer these, you'll know which IRA is best for you. Number 1, do you personally prefer to save money on taxes now or sometime in the future? If you want to save money on taxes in the future, Roth IRA is great. If you want to save money on taxes now this year, a traditional IRA is great. If that didn't help you, move on to number 2. Do you think taxes in the future will be higher than today by a noticeable amount? If yes, taxes are going to be higher than they are today, a Roth IRA is great. If no, you think taxes are going to be about the same or maybe lower, then a traditional IRA is great. And if number 2 still didn't help you decide, here's number 3. Do you make a lot of money? I.e., do you hit that range of the 22% tax bracket, and do you have some self-discipline? If you do, a traditional IRA and investing that tax savings could net you a ton more money in the end. If nothing else, you save some money on taxes now, you got some more burritos and race cars in your life, could be worthwhile. Go for a traditional IRA. But if you don't make a lot of money, a Roth IRA could be great for you. Or if you do make a lot of money and you really want to use a Roth IRA instead, it may be better than a taxable brokerage account, but it's likely costing you money compared to a traditional IRA. So just know that going into it. It's your life, it's your money, do whatever you want. Just know it's probably not perfectly optimized for those high earners. If you're curious what I do with our own investing accounts and how we orient our money based on what we can predict in the future and what our preferences are, let me tell you. We basically split the difference. About half of the money goes into Roth style accounts and about half the money doesn't, because I can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to be the most optimized. I don't know if our tax rates are going to be really high in the next 10 years because maybe we make a ton of money. That could be great. And maybe the next 4 or 5 presidents all raise taxes for people who are still working, and that could really hit us hard. But the opposite could also be true, because what if tax rates in 20 or 30 years get super, super high for everybody, including retirees? In that case, we'll be glad that we've got Roth money. This way, we've got a lot of flexibility there, including if we want to retire early, which we're potentially set up to do, we can always tap into our contributions in our Roth IRAs and our Roth 401ks and be able to afford to retire or go on some trips or do whatever until that age that everything unlocks with our traditional style accounts. Maybe that feels like a cop-out to you to kind of split it and do 50-50 or 60-40 Roth versus traditional, but I think it's where it helps me to sleep at night. It's where I think that we've got the most options, so we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. If you made it this far, the secret comment word is basket. So if you want to leave a comment and you don't have something else you want to say, totally fine. Just invent a ridiculous sentence and put basket in it. Or if you want to learn about a backdoor Roth IRA, you can watch this video next. This is about if you're a high earner, you want to still be able to access a Roth IRA even though your income is too high to legally, technically get able to get access to a Roth IRA. You can still do it. You just do a backdoor Roth. No problem. This is an early video, by the way. Production is a lot different years ago versus today. So kind of a funny one to go back and watch. It's retro. Members, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye.